Hi, welcome to another episode of Tell Me How You're Mighty, real talk about cheating. This is Tracy Shorn, and we're going to do a special episode. I don't have Sarah with me this week, but I do have two members of our community who were chosen to be part of the Ashely Madison documentary that we've talked about the last two episodes, but who didn't make the final cut. And they're here to talk about their stories today in their words. And the first person we're talking to is Jake. And Jake found his wife was on Ashely Madison when one of the affair partners she was hooking up with told him. And then the other person we're going to talk to is Christine. And she catfished her partner with an Ashely Madison profile. And we'll let her tell her story. This is Jake. And before we get into participating in the documentary, you heard about this from my website, I guess, from the social media, from Chump
Yeah.
Lady. So
Yep, from the Facebook page.
yeah, I'm sorry if I led you into to what you thought was like a I don't know. I didn't know what to expect either. I'm usually pretty open about these things, and people ask me to put out calls. I trust them. I take them at their word. So can you tell me a bit
Well,
about
I
the process?
specifically told them I was not going to get involved unless my voice of, cheating as abuse was going to be heard.
Mhm.
And so in an odd kind of roundabout way, they kind of honored their agreement by not including me.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah. But how far did you get into the process? Can you tell me a little bit about like how you sort of emailed them your story and you got picked and how did it happen?
Yeah, I emailed them a summation of my story, and then almost immediately they started to set up interviews with different producers.
Uh-huh.
So at first it was just one producer for 3 or 4 times, and I mean everyone was very genuine and nice. And then it was very clear we were going up the ladder.
Yeah.
So like higher and higher level producers to the point where I was actually meeting with the director and having meetings with him. And they finally decided, what it was going to look like. Originally, they wanted to come to me and
Really?
they were going to and they were going to bring their entire crew to come film me in my house and stuff. And I was like, I don't really want that,
Yeah.
you know? And they were like, well, what if you were to come out to London or New York? And I was like, well, that would be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice. You may as well get a trip out of this experience. But now that you mention it, I think the film crews did go to people's homes and to where they were. The,
They at least made it look like that, because what they essentially did when they came to filming in New York was they rented a house and made it look like mine.
oh,
Like,
okay.
they didn't go to my house to do research or anything, but they made it look like a home that I was living in.
Okay. Was it
Yeah.
fabulous?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was comparable to the house that I lived in.
Very Do they give you
Yeah.
like fake children and a wife and all that?
Well, I don't remember that part, but
Oh, I don't know. I'm just kind of. So what you told me your story, but if you wouldn't mind telling me it again. So your ex-wife, now ex-wife, was on Ashely Madison and was on there for a while. She met some people. That's
yeah.
how
So,
you
I mean,
found out.
I guess like all the chumps, I mean, I can tell you the story, and in your heart, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, sure.
But I mean, sheesh, this is where it gets tough. Like, how
Yeah.
do you start this story? Because there's like a lot of context. It's like,
Okay, tell
like,
me your D-Day. What's your D-Day? Like,
so I had so many D days that it's really hard to even pin one down. But I guess like early May of 2021, I don't remember the exact day, was when I finally was able to prove that she had had an affair.
in
Because
the middle
it
of the
turns out it's
pandemic.
pretty hard. Yeah. It's pretty hard to prove actual sexual contact. You can have video of people going into a hotel room. It doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I just was there to console them about, their mom being sick. And
Bible study.
uh,
They were holding hands.
yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm sure that's happened. But, and, prior to that, there had been many D days that were as emotionally destructive for me. Like,
Yeah.
you know, finding naked pictures of her on her phone and then having her try to convince me that it's part of her women's empowerment group.
Okay.
Finally finding text messages with her and someone, and her saying that it's just a client that she got really close to, you know, somebody that she had shown a house to, but
That's a
it
good
said I
euphemism.
miss you, babe, before she
Mhm.
snatched the phone away from me. And then, you know, going to couples counseling and, you know, having the counselors, you know, demand that she be honest. And she's like, I am being honest, and storming out. And
Oh
then
no.
like just a weekend where she didn't come home. And it's like, I'm sorry, you know, I've been having such problems with trying to deal with us as a couple and what's going wrong with us that I just needed a weekend away. And I was just doing self-reflection. And, you know, those
Oh
things were
God.
all their own version of D-Day.
Yeah, and sadly not original. I mean, I see stuff like this all the
Yeah.
time.
But
And
May of, you know, 2021 is when I finally, you know, had the actual proof, and she admitted to a one night stand. So, you know, that's a version of a D-Day too.
yeah,
That is a D-Day. That is a D-Day, but like that is not even scratching the surface of what was
right.
actually going on. So
Sure,
when you
the whole
discover,
trickle truth thing, right.
yeah, and I literally left Florida. I flew back to Seattle to be with family, and I spent a month there kind of licking my wounds, trying to decide whether or not I wanted to do whatever I could to salvage my marriage. And like every chump, we agree that,
Yeah,
okay, it's not worth destroying everything, especially since they're so remorseful and they want to,
right.
you know, make it work, and they're willing to do anything for their kids, if not you. Um,
Marriage will be stronger for it. That's what all the
yeah.
reconciliation propaganda says, right? So,
And
so,
then it really flew off when I specifically remember I was at the movies with my brother to go see the new Top Gun movie. And as I was leaving, I got a message.
mhm.
And that message was from a random guy on Facebook who had found me, who had had enough and decided to text me and say, hey, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. And I'm probably reading this very close to verbatim because of how many times I've read it.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, it's seared in
I'm
your
sorry to be
memory.
the, yeah. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I've been in a relationship with your wife for the last 6 months. She is a liar. She's manipulative. At first, she told me you were separated. Now,
Oh,
and then she says you guys are getting back together. I'm sorry to say I'm not the first one. She's been with many before me. Um,
whoa.
just, I'm no longer with her. But I think it's important for you to know this. And by the way, here's the link to her Ashely Madison account. And
Oh,
so
whoa. Did he meet her
those
on
links,
Ashely Madison
he
or
did. Yep,
he
he
did?
did.
So that's
Yep.
kind of funny that the married dating site, he feels betrayed because he thought you were
Yeah.
separated.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, like
Right.
that's a twist, but you know, whatever. Hats off to that guy that he told you,
Well, I mean, I'm
whatever
not going to
his
give him much
motives.
credit because he literally told me because she burned him.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm
She
not
was
saying his
investing her
motives were
time in
pure.
someone else. Yeah. She was investing her time in someone else, and, you know, wasn't willing to screw around with him anymore. And he was hurt by it, and, you know, wanted
Yeah.
to throw her under the bus. And thank you. Like, thank
Yeah.
you. I
Yeah.
needed that. That it's like that, you know, everybody's like, oh, once you have the information, just walk away. It's like, no, I think there's a lot of us that need to know the depravity. They need to know the level for which they've been deceived, because
Yeah.
otherwise you're just going to believe their bullshit. They're
Well,
going to
you
tell
have
you,
such
oh,
yeah, you have such sunk costs and you want to believe the sorry. And it's hard, you know, I
yeah,
think for people who haven't been chumped, it's really hard to believe that that's the case. I mean, even it is for myself. When I look back, I'm like, why the hell, you know, did I even attempt to try once I knew how to D-Day?
yeah.
But
But
it's a
I would
very
give yourself
human
a little
thing.
grace, because the version of yourself when you were going through that hadn't internalized the terrible things that they had done to you yet.
That's true. And as you point out, you don't get the full story and you'll probably never get the
Right.
full story. And in your case, you had deep sunk costs. You have children with this woman and you know, you probably
I
have
can't
your own
even
moral code
begin.
that you should try. And
We
yeah,
had literally sold our house in Seattle and moved to Florida to try to get a fresh start because she was so stressed out from work that it was causing problems with our marriage. And, later on, come to discover that her being stressed out was she was managing three other side relationships besides me.
Oh my God.
That was her being stressed out.
Right. It's hard. Double lives, they're so hard. They're
I
so very
know.
hard. And so
Difficult.
if we could pivot to the documentary for a minute, that whole level of deceptiveness and the costs of that, like you're describing, you moved your whole life, you sold a house, you
I sold
uprooted
my
your children,
business to my
you
partner.
sold your business. Oh my God. I mean, so this was a theft of your reality. You would have made different decisions had you known. And
100%.
yeah, that's the complexity of infidelity that they didn't go into. And what I found it was a bit bait and switch about this whole documentary was that they said they wanted to look at the complexities of infidelity. Well, if you think it's abuse, it's not very complex, it's abusive. But if you really want to get into the side of the story that nobody talks about, it's exactly what you just said. It's multiple affairs, it's serial cheating, it's the theft of your reality, it's years wasted. There's monetary costs, there's emotional costs, obviously, and you had your health risked. To me, none of this is was discussed in this doc. I mean, did you watch the whole thing? Did you get through all 3 episodes yet?
Is it going to ruin, my credibility if I tell you I haven't watched it, and I won't?
No, that's okay. I can see how you wouldn't want to. You know?
I
My
listened to your podcast yesterday, so I feel like I got the scoop.
Well, Sarah and I, this is going to be like our third time discussing it because Sarah wanted to get in on it, so we discussed it again, and she watched the whole thing, was appalled. But it's okay. You don't have to. I thought, in our conversation before we talked right now, I thought you made a really beautiful, elegant point, which is that you weren't judging your ex for her sexuality. You're judging the deception. Could you talk about that?
Well, I've been struggling to label this for a while because I think when we're dealing with normies, and that's what I call people who, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
the reason that it's such a leap for them to believe what we know to be true, that cheating is abuse, is because there's, in their minds, there's these obscure ways of thinking about cheating as not abuse. Like, oh my gosh, you guys are at each other's throats. You no longer plan on being together. You assume they're having an affair. You're having an affair. It doesn't even matter. There's no monogamy. There's no sex. There's no love,
Yeah.
whatever. And like, oh, okay, we're not going to judge that. But that's not really cheating. That's kind of like you acknowledge your marriage destroyed. But so what we're talking about is something much, much deeper. And I've been struggling to label it because the abuse doesn't necessarily happen from the physical act of cheating. I mean, what somebody else does with their own body and goes to a massage parlor, let's say, just say they had their back massaged. Physically, it's very similar to having the other side of their body
Yeah,
massaged.
right.
So where the abuse comes in is what, like, I've been trying to figure out a term for it, and I wrote it out today so I wouldn't remember it. I posted it to the group. Structural extractive deception.
Mhm.
And to me, this kind of sums it all up. This is like foundational, like this is intent. It's like these people are purposefully deceiving you in order to extract something from you, like literally the epitome of abuse. So the cheating is
Yeah.
just kind of the tip of the iceberg because like that's an effect of it, but not like what they're really going for. They're trying to extract utility out of you,
Yeah.
and they're willing to like base your entire relationship on lies in order to do it.
Yeah,
And that's like,
absolutely right. You're an
it's like,
appliance, you're a thing, you're
yeah,
abuse. And I think we have a very binary thought about cheating. It's me or him or her. It's a pick me dance. Who's going to win the competition? Whereas I said, no, it's cake. The goal is cake. The
yep,
idea is to have as many options available, extract value from as many people as possible to the
exactly.
cheater, to the narcissist, to the fuckwit, whatever you want to call them. And the goal is the power imbalance.
Yeah.
and that cheating is an abusive power dynamic. And that can be expressed through sex, that can be expressed through theft of your time, theft of your reality, the risks that you didn't consent to be exposed to, and it's so much more than sex. And people just want to judge the sex because sex is cool. Sex makes you edgy. And it's very uncool to judge the kind of sex people like or how they want to do it. And they say that there's a lot of language about that, but really, because if you're fucking goats, we might judge that. If you're fucking minor children, we totally judge that. If you're chumping people, we should judge that. And what I found so disturbing about this documentary is they keep going, oh, don't judge. I don't judge. I'm Swedish. I don't judge. The whole hacker IT guy.
Yeah.
There's this premium put on being very above it all and not judging. And not judging someone for their legitimate sexuality, like, you're gay or whatever. Yeah, don't judge that, But judging somebody for their ethics, their lack of ethics, and their abusive behavior, yeah, we should absolutely judge that. And
100%. And I almost word for word conveyed that to the director. And that is what he thought was so interesting about my point of view. And he had me talk about it at length. So it's really interesting that I literally was giving the director what he thought was the most interesting concept related to the entire discussion. And it wasn't even something that made the cut.
well, I guess you're just too much of a bummer, Jake.
I don't know. I didn't think
people,
it was a bummer story. To me, it was like I detected that I was being abused. I did the research to determine that I was being abused, and I cut my losses and got rid of the abuser. That to me is that's like, the Shawshank Redemption when he finally escapes from the prison at the end with all the money.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You're a story of triumph.
Right.
I completely agree. I know. I don't know why they didn't sell. And so it's interesting to me, like one of the couples that was put in were the swingers, with the woman who's the dominatrix and the guy who's on Ashely Madison. And then they're sort of shown separately, and then they're shown together, and you realize that they're a couple and they bake cookies. And I thought, well, if you're swingers, why are you on a married dating site? Why are you choosing married people? Why are you chumping someone? Is that your kink? Is deceiving somebody your kink? Getting over on someone who doesn't know that they're part of this triangle, Dewey decahedron, whatever that's going on? And that's never discussed. It's the whole kind of monogamy is for squares. And I'm like, if you don't want to swing, fine, but do it ethically. And it's completely conflated. It's like because they're cheating, going to a cheater site, we're supposed to that's just glossed right over.
I think it's proof of the conflation that they actually lumped in swingers with cheaters.
Yeah.
They're not the same. The fact that they put them together kind of proves their ignorance on the topic. Oh, hey, they're sexually active. That's the same as cheating. Let's put it all in together. No, it's not. Had an informed person been doing these interviews, the very first thing that they would have asked this couple is, you guys are swingers. What does that have to do with cheating? And why are you on cheating sites? Why aren't you on swinger sites? Like, what's wrong with this picture? The fact that they didn't bring it up, I mean, those people aren't going to voluntarily tell you why they're choosing a cheating site, but I can tell you that they did it for a reason.
Well, I think it's the dark side of this that again nobody wants to talk about, which I think Dr. Omar Minwalla, has a secret sexual basement, and there's like abusosexuals, and that what you're getting off on is the deceit. You're getting off on chumping someone. You're getting off on that power dynamic. And there's real harm behind it. And I wish someone would do a documentary about that. And yeah, it might be a bummer, but I really, like you, I don't think it's a bummer because I think people rise above it and rebuild their lives.
Well, it requires you taking a stance that what they're doing is wrong. And from the very get-go, they weren't willing to do that.
Yeah. Well, tell me how this guy from Ashely Madison reaches out to you. Do you confront your ex? I mean, how does this story end? Like, you've busted her, she's dead to rights, you get out.
how about let me see what you come up with your prediction of her reaction when I confront her with this.
Hmm.
Because I'm guessing you'll be pretty accurate.
I fail to understand your hostility, Jake.
Um,
Wasn't me.
there was like a
This isn't the
lot of
brownie.
this isn't as big of a deal as you're making it. Yeah, so
Yes.
you're on the right track.
Okay. That was, that was just a jealous somebody who, was mad and is trying to ruin my life. I don't
That
know.
was that was a huge part of it. He
Bitch
was
be crazy.
mad that I wouldn't have sex with him. This isn't
Uh-huh.
somebody I've had sex with, Jake. It wasn't ever like that. And that's why he was so mad. He got so mad at me because I refused to have sex with him. And why? Because I wasn't there yet, Jake. I wasn't ready to throw everything away yet, Jake. And that's why he got so mad at me that he told me he was going to contact you. So I've never
Uh-huh.
actually had sex with this guy. And I'm like, well,
All
what did
right.
you guys do? And she was like, well, we would just get together. And I'm like, for what purpose? I mean, you guys are meeting on Ashely Madison. And well, I mean, it was sexual, but we didn't have sex. I wasn't ready for that yet.
You
And I
know
mean,
what?
like,
None of this matters. This is like how many cherubs can dance on the head of a pin kind of thing. I mean, like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, gone, done, not acceptable, doesn't belong in my marriage. Bye.
I mean, so the point is that like even I mean that was just a grotesque lie because not only were they having sex and having sex for a long time, but
Yeah.
this was like the fifth guy she had been with from Ashely
Oh
Madison,
my God.
and
Can we?
so she's like literally trying to like condense this all down to like this was the first contact I had ever had,
Uh-huh.
and I was on a path to cheating on you, but I wasn't there yet because I wasn't ready. Like I'm going to ingratiate what's left of my dignity within your mind by saying I wasn't ready yet, and that's why this guy was so hostile. So think better of me because I didn't have sex with this
Oh,
guy.
that's the bitch cookie thing, right? Yeah. I didn't hit you, right? Bitch cookie. I didn't. I was faithful for like entire weeks at a time, right?
And I
Oh,
mean, the duplicity that goes on in your mind, it's like you believe them and you know they're fucking lying at the same time.
yeah. Well,
So,
the other thing I have to say from a straight woman's perspective that kind of intrigues me about women who are in Ashley Madison is it's they come away from these encounters like I am so great, I'm so hot, people like me, people want me. It's such an ego kibble feeding trough, and I'm like, this is throwing steak to Labradors. This is standing on a corner with handing out free dollar bills. I mean, this is like, of course you're popular. You're getting on the internet and going, I would like to have free uh no strings attached sex with men.
you're the one actual woman out of 100 who is actively engaging with these people.
Yeah, you're not a bot. And so many of them were bots. You're an actual person who, like, I mean, very damaged, messed up person to do this. But it's like you're crazy to think that this is some kind of validation. You're a
To
free
them, it is.
orifice. You're going to men who won't pay for hookers. That's what this is. And the
Yeah,
other
isn't that ironic when I like I wouldn't say it. I'm not gonna.
No,
It's I
I'm
have
saying
thought
it.
of
And
it.
the other
It's
thing
like
I want to
she's
say,
basically a prostitute that's not getting paid.
yeah, she's well,
Like,
she's getting paid in narcissistic supply. And
yeah,
the other
you're
thing
100% right.
yeah, the other thing I would say about it is it it's so dangerous. I don't understand this. I don't as a with so much violence against women, and your ex is a piece of shit for doing this, but I also think who would take that kind of risk? I mean, you should not be meeting randos. Like prostitutes shouldn't do it, right? They wind up dead. Like
Right.
you need some kind, at least prostitutes have pimps, somebody who's
I
supposedly
mean, that's
looking out. I'm like, if you're just meeting strange random men, it's like, it's such high risk behavior. I'm like, you can't forget the deception and the cheating. You can't be with this person because they are not grounded in reality. They can't
right. To meet
adult.
up with strange men in strange places. It's like, doesn't matter how much you've been texting back and forth. It doesn't matter what they say when you get to the bar. It's like they could be a completely different person to the point. Um, she started to try, once I left her, she tried to manipulate me by telling me that this guy was now stalking her.
Yeah, okay. Well,
And it
for
was all bullshit. Like it was all a lie because she thought that this guy was feeding me inside information about what she was up to. So she's like, you need to break off contact with him. You need to cut all communication. Otherwise, you are complicit in his stalking of me, and I will press charges.
okay. Wow.
So what happened? I contacted Child Protective Services and she lost her kids because
Whoa.
she was sitting on the knowledge that she had what she described as a violent stalker who was showing up to her workplace, who was threatening her and who was making her fear for her life, and she had not informed me. And yet she was
Wow.
having the kids at that point 50-50. Contacted my lawyer, contacted Child Protective Services. They're like, under no circumstances can you give this your children back to her, otherwise you will be negligent in your duties to protect them. So she
Wow.
lost her kids for 2 months until she came back with a lawyer saying that she had fabricated it. Well, that we had misunderstood her intent when she described the stalking.
Uh-huh. Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, good for you for calling her bluff.
Well,
I
that
mean,
guy
I
got
feel
wind.
terrible for your children caught up in this drama, but I
Well,
mean,
that's her fault.
yeah, no,
But
totally
that
her
guy got
fault.
wind that she had made that claim and actually had a lawyer contact her lawyer threatening slander charge.
She's a nut. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have to share custody with your kids now, or what's your situation? Are you fully
I
divorced
do.
out of this?
It's fully divorced. It's 50-50 because so she still lives in Florida. I live here. She's seen the kids maybe a 5-to-1 ratio,
Okay.
6-to-1 ratio right now. So I'll have them for like 2 months and she'll have them for a week. But
So
now
is it fair to say,
she's threatening to move to Washington, like because nothing's more important than her kids. She's already been there a year.
yeah, she's not coming back. So
I hope so.
is it fair to say you have primary physical custody now?
Yeah, so like that's what I did. Rather than playing the court system, what seemed easier to me was to play my fuckwit. Because the court system is going to be a lot more difficult to deal with, and narcissistic rage and revenge is a real thing. So give them what they want. And for her, she wanted the house. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, you can live in the house. I don't care.
And you have
Like,
the
yeah, and I have
kids.
the
You're
kid.
the sane
Yeah.
parent. Wow. Good for you. Oh, and I guess she's got the whole buffet of humanity now.
Well, who knows? I mean, like it's always hard to say because it doesn't matter how long you are separated from this kind of duplistic abuse. There is always a part of you that feels as if they're going to turn back into the person you thought they were. Now, you know it's not true. You
Yeah.
know, your mind knows it's not true, but your heart's still like, oh, yeah, they actually might turn into a good mom and start making good choices. But the reality of it is that they will never really be honest with you
Yeah.
ever. They never have been about their true feelings, about their true intentions, about their passions and their loves. They don't understand themselves. They're not going to share it with you, especially if it makes them feel like they're weak in any way.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to men who are going through this? Because I've said this before about my site, back on Google Analytics, like a third to a half of the readers are men, but they lurk. So, because I know being chumped happens to men, but they're not. And the other thing about it is the demographic runs mostly 25 to 35, but the people who comment the most are women over 45 because I think they have no fucks left to give. But there's a lot of men, I think it's really taboo to talk about cheating. And you're not the only person on my site who like found their wife on Ashely Madison. I know of a couple others. But what would you say to a guy who's been chumped? I mean, have you had to reach out, been that friend to other people?
I mean, I don't know if gender really matters. Like I haven't really felt there's been much of a difference between guys and girls on the
Yeah.
site. I've
Okay.
connected with both and we're all going through the same thing emotionally. It doesn't seem different. It doesn't seem
Yeah.
engendered in any way whatsoever. It's like the chump kind of is the same every single time.
Oh
We
yeah,
are
no,
the one.
I agree. I mean, I think
Yeah.
there's some certain horrors that men have that women don't have, like paternity testing children, and there's certain horrors that men don't have that women have, like being cheated on while you're pregnant or losing your fertility, or but yeah, the heartbreak is all the same. And as I said, it's not the pain Olympics. I think men tend not to share, and I'm not a guy, I can't say, I'm just basing it on running the blog, aren't as open with other men about this happening to them. Like if you, that it's harder to be out about being cheated on.
I feel like there's probably a lot, like that might be different cultural differences, is
Yeah.
that, men feel more ashamed of like, gosh, how did I allow, my wife to cheat on me? Whereas, with women, it's very clear that there's a sacred bond between
Mhm.
other women, that have been cheated on. I mean, and so when it comes to men, I just think that they haven't been open enough about it. And I'm an open book. I always have been. I
Yeah.
wear my emotion on my sleeve. I'm not sorry about how I feel about things, and I'll share it with everybody. I'm an honest person.
Good for
Part
you.
of
You
the
probably
reason I
help a lot
ended
of
up a
people.
chump. I mean, you
Well,
can go onto the Facebook page, you'll see like almost annoying amount of comments from me.
no, but that's how we change a narrative. That's how you help people. That's how you help people get through it faster. You know. And I think it's important too. I'm sorry that your story wasn't included in the documentary, because I would love for people to see an ending that's not reconciliation. The two people that they did feature was the Christian vloggers who, like, cheating made their marriage stronger, and they have a book
For
to sell
now.
about that for now, right? Look, I'm totally with you there. And then the other one was the sinister minister's wife. The sinister minister killed himself.
Well,
So
she got some closure, didn't she?
yeah. Well, she's on record as saying that she's sorry that she didn't get the chance to reconcile. That would have been her happy hour. I'm
Well,
like,
that really wasn't up to her, was it?
no, no. I guess
No
he
matter
made.
what she might think, oh, I could have tried really hard to make it reconcile. And I was like, well, that's not really going to matter unless they do it, and they're not gonna. So,
Yeah, I mean, I argue he had what 6 hours of accountability, and that was too hard. So,
yeah, that was a really good point.
like, I mean, I shouldn't laugh. I mean, I take it back. I mean, I've lost someone dear
Why
to me
not?
to suicide.
Why not laugh?
Well, because it's a terrible kind of grief, and it's just that God works in mysterious ways, and maybe God didn't want you to be with an abusive man. Instead of, maybe God isn't telling you that you should have reconciled, or I don't know.
Or
I
God is indifferent and we make our own choices.
Yeah, that's a chaotic universe. I don't know. To me, the Jesus
I don't
cheaters
think
like set me
indifference is
on.
chaotic. I don't. I was just having a philosophical debate about this with someone else. It's like, I don't not think indifference is chaotic. I think it's comforting.
Oh, indifference? Yeah, to that? No,
Yeah.
I'm all for the meh. I'm pure. Yeah, I'm team meh. So what did you get out of doing this documentary? Let's end up, like, did you get to go to New York? Did you have a
Yeah,
nice
I had a
dinner or
great
something?
time in New York. Actually got 4 nights there. They put me
Whoa,
up at the Marriott on the Upper East Side.
damn.
I got to do some bucket list things like eat at Cat's Deli, where they had that famous scene from When Harry Met Sally, and
Yeah.
go to the Comedy Underground.
Oh my God.
Got some pop-ins, like Trevor Noah popped in and did a set, and that was amazing. And then I met Christine, who was from Chump Nation, and we had just like, I didn't know she was going to be there. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden I see on the site, another chump's going to be there. Next thing you know, we meet up, we're having dinner, we're laughing, we're having drinks, we're going to comedy shows, and
Did
then
you
boom,
guys
we're
both
done.
know that you would be in the Netflix documentary?
Only when we got to New York,
Oh my God.
they
Okay.
set up one side of the house for me, like that was my house, and one side of the house for her, like that was her house.
Oh my God. Well, even though they didn't take the correct point of view, which is that the cheating is abusive, I'm glad you guys got a great weekend out of it.
Well, hey,
Nothing
maybe
else.
maybe our testimony led them to having discussions right now behind closed doors with producers of there's a whole other documentary we need to do, and it's based on this attitude. And if you remember, Jake and Christine, and they came from Chump Nation. I mean, who knows? Maybe
Yeah.
there's more going on behind the scenes than we realize. Who cares about this dumb documentary? It's just like the other one that came out.
Yeah. Our next story is from Christine. Christine was told that she would make it to the third episode of the Ashely Madison documentary, and her story was cut. She had a long term relationship with her boyfriend, who, as it turned out, had quite a double life. And here's Christine. So, tell me how you found out your ex was on Ashely Madison. I totally, and then also you can tell me too, like how it came that I put out a call, and is that how you got connected
Yeah,
with them?
you might have to remind me the second part as I get going.
That's okay. I mean, how'd
Yeah.
you? Was Ashely Madison your D Day?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Um, I had known about, we were together almost 8 years, and there had been some on and off cheating that occurred during that time. But he had always done such a great job of flipping the script, making it my fault. And in fact, I had a whole list on the airplane ride to New York to do my interview for Ashely Madison. I wrote down all of the really great excuses that he gave me for his behavior, and I read them on film.
Oh my gosh. Like,
Excuses.
give us one. I mean, sure, it wouldn't be a surprise to anybody who reads the blog, but yeah.
Oh, I'll look for him. Well, I have my notebook here.
Okay. Stupid
Okay.
shit.
Yeah. Um, I didn't pay enough attention to him. I
Okay.
paid too much attention to him. We didn't have anything in common. I was too needy and or possessive. He was bored. I didn't do enough to excite him. He was insecure. I was too pretty.
Oh, okay. You're too pretty.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyone in the group that talks about like he left or she left because I gained weight or whatever, I'm like, no. Um, they did that because they're a piece of shit. He's never fit in with people, so he went along with the group to be accepted. He needed to feel wanted. So those were some of like the key ones that like I mean there were plenty more, but like the you're too pretty. What do you think people are thinking when we walk into a room together? Then that gets me feeling like, oh, I'm so sorry you feel so bad about yourself. I had no idea. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Let me
That's
stroke your ego and make you feel better.
right. You have to bolster him,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
just
Oh,
dance harder, dance prettier.
yeah.
Just work harder for the awesome prize that is somebody who's cheating on you.
Yeah. I know it's great. Um,
Wow.
and so these things had occurred on and off. And then of course I would I even had girlfriends that would be take a screenshot, single girlfriends take a screenshot of a Tinder profile and it's his. And I'd be like, hey, what's this? Oh yeah. Oh, I opened that up for a buddy. I was showing him what it looks like and stuff. Or I don't know, one of the guys must be playing a prank on me or something.
But you
And
already caught him cheating. I mean, like, was any of this flying with you, or were you just your head was in the blender?
oh, the blender. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he did. I mean, that's how these people work. They do such a great job of altering your perception of reality. And they've got to come back for everything. I mean, it's like they have their own, like we have our book that you've written and it's
Mhm.
beautiful, right? Leave a cheater, gain a life. I feel like they have their own guidebook on how to successfully manipulate,
Yeah.
emotionally abuse, gaslight, and exploit and cheat on your partner guidebook, right?
Yeah.
And and he groomed me since day one. We were friends for years before we got together, and I looking back, like it was definitely a grooming process. When we got together romantically, it was right. It was weeks after my mother had passed away.
Oh, sorry.
And thank you. And so, him reaching out, hey, let me take you to dinner, let's hang out, let's talk, and him like providing me this comfort. He saw he saw an opening there. He saw a vulnerable woman that he could potentially exploit, gaslight
Yeah.
things, right? I was a very easy target back then. was a wreck. I was mush. All the things that you experience after losing such an important person in your life, and then you have
Yeah.
some come along and they're telling you all the right things, and it was all intentional. He had no intention of ever being the person that he represented himself to be. Um, Finding out later on, he's been like that for years. Every relationship he's been in, it's the
Wow.
same thing. So this had been going on for years, on and off, and there would be times where everything was seeming to go great. We'd go on trips. I traveled with him, and and the fact of the matter is, he was a fun guy. He was a fun guy to hang out with. Everybody loved him. He had his group of people that he had carefully curated group of people, and it was always a fun time, and everybody just loved him.
Did they know about his double life? His,
A few people, yes.
yes. So
Other,
sworn to secrecy. Okay.
yeah. This carefully curated group of people that thought it was just part of life. They'd laugh about it when someone would get caught. It was
Wow. Charming.
Yeah. And so the D-Day for me actually occurred. I got a phone call from his now ex-daughter-in-law, who I was really close with. And apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Son's doing some of the same bullshit, right? And I was kind of her support person through that, even though it was my partner's son.
Yeah.
I was the one that told her when she discovered the gambling addiction, and so all this weird stuff going on, and he's not the same person he used to be. And I was the only person that said, you need to file for legal separation right now.
Yeah.
Protect yourself and your assets. You need to do that today. You can fix your relationship if that's what's going to happen, but this is what you need to do. So we've always been close. Just had dinner with her a couple of nights ago.
And she's the one who told you that her father-in-law was a cheater?
She's the one that told me that he was potentially involved in some embezzlement, that he helped her husband embezzle, money laundering, fraud. It was a whole
Ashely Madison is just the one of many things that makes him an utter douchebag.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
He's the complete package of deception.
Yeah. And so she called me Monday night around 8 p.m. and she says, hey, starts telling me all this stuff. I'm looking for these fake invoices. My ex was out of town on a quote unquote business trip to California at the time. And I said, well, let me see what I could find. I said that, well, he also would forget everything. I had a list of all usernames and passwords at my place in Eugene that I had for work. And I had the usernames and passwords for all of us at our home that we shared on the coast. And so and he knew this, he would call me up all the time. What's my password for this? So I start logging in to email accounts to look for any of this evidence, these invoices, because I know there had to have been some sort of paper trail. And so I found some of that, of course. Yeah. And then as when I log in, though, I see he had just left like 2 days prior to go down to California. And I see all the activation confirmations, Tinder, Bumble.
Oh my God, all of them.
Oh yeah, the whole trifecta. And Match was on there too. And so I'm like, okay, that's Ashely Madison's new. That's different.
That was just part of one of the many dating.
Yeah.
Were you married to this guy? No, you weren't.
No,
he's just boy. So married dating sites. He's not particular. He'll date the married. He'll date the single. Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, so I had to just kind of set that aside. I'm like, okay, that's different. So I keep scrolling through and putting in any words, keywords to find these invoices. So I find the things and I I set those aside and save them to my computer. And so I'm like, okay, I need to go back to this thing for a second. And I'm like I'm looking at the timeline. I mean, he must have been driving and activating all of these things while he's on the road.
Wow.
And it was like, 6:30, 6:32, 7:00, 8:45.
Do you ever wonder how he multitasks like this? I mean, I always thought, I would say the same about my cheating ex. I mean, just like, it's exhausting. Like,
And that's what I said. I said this when we finally had our conversation about it. I'm like, aren't you exhausted? This is like, how do you manage all of this chaos? How do you juggle that, right?
They must feed from it. I don't know. Wow. Yeah. So you confronted him. So you find out.
Ooh, yeah, eventually.
I would have told you not to do that.
Well, I didn't know you guys yet.
Okay.
This is like early. Yeah, and my light bulb moment, Tracy, honestly, was when I'm looking through all the financial stuff, and it occurred to me, he can't blame this on me. This is so far from my moral compass, so far from what I think is like the way we should do things. There is no way he can blame this on me. And then it occurred to me in that same moment, now it's like 11, 12 o'clock at night. Oh my God, he can't blame any of it on me.
Yeah.
And that was the moment after nearly 8 years of serial cheating, serial lying, manipulation, gaslighting, all this horrible emotional abuse, that he somehow managed to convince me, region manager overseeing quarter of the state that I live in, convinced me that it was somehow my fault. And that's when I finally realized none of it was my fault.
Yeah.
And I didn't confront him right away. I actually just kind of put everything, I call it like the emotional box. I'm putting all of this here. I need to take action. I put it on a shelf. I'm going to deal with that later. And I made a list of all the things I need to do. I need to go to the house on the coast. I need to do an inventory. I've got 2 weeks. He's going to be gone for 2 weeks. This is how much time I have. And I am so grateful that, I got the job that I did that required me to basically get my apartment in the city, that I had a place. I had it, it was my place. I fully furnished it. I had all the things. So I didn't need to get a sofa or a refrigerator. It was just, I need to go to the house, figure out the essentials. So I acted like nothing was wrong for about 8 days. But when he called, I answered. If he wanted to FaceTime, I FaceTimed. If he texted, I texted back. But I also, on my laptop, created a fake Ashely Madison profile.
I love this story.
Yes. And I decided that late that Monday night, after that realization, none of this is my fault. But I also knew that once he found out that I know what I know, he's going to pull out all the stops. He's going to, tell all the elaborate stories and lies that he can to try to get me back. And I needed my concrete proof that no, you weren't just on this looking
right
out there to see what it's about. You were looking to find some strange. And so I created this fake profile, reached out to a friend of mine who lives out of state. Hey, she matched like his type perfectly. Asked if I could use some of her photos. And of course she did. She let me use those, created the fake profile. And it was within like a day and a half that I connected with him. I put my location close to where he was, but not next door.
Right.
Didn't want to be too obvious. And I initiated conversation with him. So while I would get to the house, I would strategically turn off surveillance cameras in the house so he couldn't see me removing things and putting things in my car.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then I would turn them back on and so on and so forth. So while I'm answering his calls and his texts and FaceTime. I'm also chatting with him on my laptop as this woman wanting to have a sexual encounter with him on Ashely Madison. And
You're good, Christine. You're good, man. The fact that you have this ability to compartmentalize, you didn't turn to a puddle of anxiety. It's incredible.
That came.
You are just determined. I love it.
I went into project manager mode. I looked at it as a project.
He's a project. Okay.
Yeah. He was, and not anymore.
Creative problem solving.
Yeah. Yes. And so I did that for several days, and he never knew that this was happening. And when there was a confirmation of, confirming what each other was on the site for.
I was going to say, did he wasn't just friendly chatting like, hey, let's go play euchre sometime, or he he wanted to have sex with you or your friend.
Yeah. That was very obvious. It was what are you looking for on here? And then I, just created I'm in an unhappy marriage and I love my husband, but I just can't leave him yet. And, just looking for some excitement in my life, and you seem interesting. And then, what are you looking for? And so same, he was honest, because normally on like Tinder and the Bumble, he would lie and say he was single. On there, he was honest. Oh yeah, I have a girlfriend. We've been together for a while, but she just works so much, and she doesn't pay attention to me, and she's gone all the time, and all the things. And I'm just, at this point, I'm just laughing. I got into a temporary meh stage. It was temporary, but I got there just for there was a bubble, a little amount of time that I got to that stage. And I'm just looking at this and I'm just laughing. I'm taking screenshots as I go to. And once it was confirmed, hey, okay, let's meet. He was down in the Ventura area. I said I was in Orange County, so picked a place of kind of in the middle, and hey, let's meet up there. Do you want to book the room, or do you want me to, kind of a thing? And so once that was confirmed, and it's like, yep, I'll book the room. Then I just closed the account, closed the laptop, and ghosted him.
I'm imagining him showing up somewhere in Orange County at a hotel room and waiting for the encounter that never happens.
Yeah.
While you're driving in an escape van, you're packing up the stuff and running away.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was crazy. And then it's a few days after that okay, I have all the essentials. My the first trip I took out there, all I took back were my mom's ashes and some photos. And I told a relative, I said, if all I get are these things, I'm good. If I can't go back and get the rest, at least I have this whole box of things. And then I found your group.
Oh,
and that was a lifesaver. But I towards the last night, I waited till about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I wrote a long email. The short part was I'm leaving you, and this is why. And that was just very, very short, because I figured out by then he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, right. Gig is up, right?
Yeah, doesn't care. But it was here's usernames and passwords. I took my phone off the mutual bill. I have my own account. You need here's the password for the electric company, the cable company, because I wanted to make sure that was it. No loose ends. This is your email to refer to for all that information. It's been over 3 years, Tracy. I still get your bill is due emails from the electric company.
Oh my God.
It's all on auto pay, but I still get the fucking statements. It's been over 3 years and he still hasn't.
Well, it's a way to be in your life, I guess, auxiliary kibbles. So you have this amazing story. So when I put the call out on social media for the Ashely Madison Netflix people. You responded, and how did that go? Tell me about being chosen to be on this. Did you have any idea of how that would work out? Were you honest, like, hey, I left and I don't recommend, you know,
Oh
reconciling with an
yeah.
embezzler?
Yeah. Well, and a compulsive gambler
Oh
and
my gosh.
yeah, all the
Yeah.
things. Um, I went into it with, yeah, I reached out to them. I was like, hey, I'll give you my perspective. I didn't even reach out to them thinking that I would be part of the documentary initially.
Mhm.
They, I read it as they were just wanting to talk to some people and gain
Yeah.
a little more perspective. So I was, hey, I have this interesting, unique story. Wasn't part of the hack, but I have this story.
Mhm.
And I can kind of tell you from my perspective what that looked like. And they reached out to me. It was within a few days or so. And I met with one person. And Tracy, honestly, I went into it with like, I don't have kids with this person. I don't have anything to lose. I'm never going to say his name. Um, but I'm going to be vulnerable and I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be open. And what they want to do with that information is up to them. And so had like 3 of these meetings with different folks along the
Mhm.
way. And explained to me this documentary is going to be on Netflix, and we really just we want to focus like on all the different perspectives of it. Obviously there was a data breach, and all these people's information was released, so there's that part of it. And then we're going to talk to maybe people that work for Ashely Madison, and spouses, partners, people that their marriage was ruined. Like they were very clear
Mhm.
about they wanted to show this full perspective. They wanted, and so I was okay with that. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, as long as you're doing a full perspective, of course. Who wants to watch a one-sided documentary?
Yeah.
I
Did
want
you
the
watch
whole.
the documentary now? Have you
I
watched all
got
the
through two. I got through 2 episodes.
Yeah. What'd you think?
Ugh,
It wasn't what you expected.
no, no, not at all. Um, because when they reached out and asked if I wanted to come to New York to do some filming, they sent me the contracts and all the things.
Mhm.
And I wrote them an email, and I was up at night and I'm thinking, what is it that they like about my story? What is it that they find most compelling? Is it the salaciousness of the discovery and the catfishing my partner, and,
Yeah.
and all of that? Is it the juggling I had to do to get my stuff from the head? Like it was
Yeah.
very,
To escape, right?
yeah, yeah. Um, or was it how I healed and recovered from that, and I lived this wonderful, fulfilling life? Because that's the best part for me.
Yeah, right.
That,
You left the cheater, you gained the life. Right.
yeah. And they assured me that that it was kind of all you. I forwarded you the email, like
Yeah.
I
It
can't
it
remember.
sounded like you were gonna make the final cut, like you were gonna be on the 3rd episode or something.
Yep. Yeah. So, they assured me that they were compelled by all of my story, and they wanted, basically all of it. The director actually reached out to me, and we had a Zoom call, and, just to
Mhm.
kind of reassure me, no, because I was also big on like, I don't want to be portrayed as a victim. I am
Yeah.
not a victim. I'm a survivor and I'm thriving, and I do not want because to be portrayed as a victim, because God forbid my ex watches that.
Yeah.
He
Thinks
would.
he has centrality, right? And then
Yeah. Um and so I went out, filmed, met Jake. We had a
yeah.
great time. Great human, love him. And the filming went great. I told my story, but there were a couple of times that I say there were signs that it
Yeah.
wasn't going the way that I wanted. Because I was really trying to tell a complete story on why, after all that time, it wasn't necessarily the cheating that caused me to leave that night. It was the discovery of the fraud and the embezzlement and the money laundering and the gambling and all of that. And I was trying to explain, like how he would manipulate me and gaslight me, and all the work he went into that, and how it took that money part of it, the all the other things. Sorry, I lost my train of thought, Tracy. All the other things to make me realize, none of it was my fault. And I was trying to kind of walk through like what it looks like to live with a gaslighter, with a manipulator, with an emotional abuser. And they stopped me and they said, Christine, the people watching this know it wasn't your fault. The people watching, no one's gonna say, oh, it was her fault that he cheated. And I looked at them and I said, that's where you're wrong. Because there are people in this relationship right now that really believe that they're the reason that their partner does all these bad things.
Yeah. And the cheater tells them that because that keeps the double life alive.
Right.
If I can keep you dancing and spinning in circles and improving yourself and asking yourself why, then you won't look too carefully at, at the other things that are going on that you don't know about.
Yeah, they keep you down here. They keep you as low as possible. So I said, yeah, there's someone that's going to watch this and they don't know that. They think they're the reason. They're in this situation. And that's when I looked at the camera and basically just was like, describe, if you're in this type of relationship, if you're in a relationship where your partner is gaslighting you, manipulating you, cheating on you, lying on you, deflecting, everything is your fault, bringing you down, taking your sparkle. I listed off all the things. You are in an abusive relationship. Call that shit for what it is.
Yeah.
And I said, it's, I also talked about how for years through in this relationship, there were numerous times that I thought to myself, I wish he would just hit me because I know what to label that and I know what to do with that. With this type of abuse, it's different because of the gaslighting, because of the manipulation. They gain all the information they can about you, not to love you better, but to exploit you, to cheat better, not to love you better, but to cheat better.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I think that's beautifully stated. And I mean, I love your box metaphor. I didn't know what box to put it in.
Yeah. And the moment that I realized that this was an abusive relationship, everything just got a little bit easier for me. The what to do next became easier. And I said in the interview, whatever someone decides to do in their situation is up to them. I don't have judgment. If, there's many reasons why someone has to stay in a situation because they feel whatever. I'm not here to make that judgment. So maybe you have to create a plan. Maybe that plan is days, weeks, months, or years, whatever that is. But label that shit for what it is.
Yeah.
Call it what it is. It is abuse. And the director's crying. The cameraman is like choked up. I got this woman over here just like, oh my God. And that's pretty much when it cut, right? So I had already gone through most of my story. Now we're into the B-roll shots and, taking videos and doing yoga.
From their perspective, they're doing a documentary about Ashely Madison. And imagine if Ashely Madison tagline was, life is short, abuse a woman.
Right.
Or abuse your partner. It's not catchy. People aren't going to sign up for that. Instead, they're selling sex and, they're selling a fantasy.
Yeah.
And they're also, and I don't know, you only got 2 episodes in and there's 3, but what bothered me is I felt like the documentary was also selling that fantasy. That, I mean, what you're talking about is real pain and real damage and mindfuckery, and you're calling it out and calling it abuse.
Yeah.
Not to mention, the 8 wasted years, or whatever.
Yeah.
God only knows what he exposed you to, with his wandering dick. I mean, these are all the really ugly sides of infidelity, and everybody sanitizes it and doesn't talk about it. And I felt like they wanted this to look at the complexities around infidelity. They wanted the complete picture. That's why I agreed to put the call out.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a single discussion about that. I mean, it was about, okay, there were two chumps, I guess, three if you include Noel Biderman's wife.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, that's sad. That's humiliating.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And
STD, nobody lost, they have a sad and then they reconcile.
and I talked about that part of it. I talked about one of the things on my to-do list that I wrote down that night, make an appointment with my doctor. That fucking sucks to have to go in there, and now you're getting tested for everything. And thank God everything came back fine. But that's awful.
Yeah, and you didn't consent to it. It's one thing if you're out there dating, taking the risks with your own life. It's quite another to invest in what you assume is a monogamous relationship, and somebody else is taking health risks. I don't understand why that part's invisible if we all live in a magical reality about STDs and, or pregnancy, or, it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And the whole thing of it's a witch hunt. It's a witch hunt. And then we're all judging and we're shaming and
Or everybody's on a list. I heard that part. Like, I'm not on a list.
what's the on a list part?
What the sinister minister's wife, didn't she end it with everybody's on a list they don't want people to know about, or something
Oh,
like that?
yeah, right. Okay. Ye
Yeah.
without sin cast the first stone. Yes, that's really, we all have double lives. Like I mean, the Jesus cheaters drive me crazy. And I talked about this in another episode of the podcast. I really found her the most troubling of all. And she I want to feel sympathy for her. I mean, her husband killed himself. That must have been a horrific thing to discover, but I feel like she's blaming the wrong people.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things they asked me in the interview was, am blah 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 blah. Am I mad at Ashely Madison? I said, no.
No.
All they were a conduit. I said, someone created this idea,
Mm-hmm.
and it took off. Okay. Right. Okay, great. You made a product people want. All it did is made it easier for the cheater. It took him out of the bars, took him off Craigslist, right? They didn't have to risk it and hit on someone at work or their partner's best friend.
You didn't have to pay a hooker.
Didn't have to pay a hooker. Yeah.
Yeah. You're getting free.
Yeah.
Assuming someone, it's not a fembot that you're chatting with.
Yeah, right. Your only cost is the exuberant amount that I guess men have to pay to be on the site. But I'm like, why would I be mad at them? That if I was mad at Ashely Madison or Bumble or Tinder or whatever, it's displacing.
Or the horse track. I mean, like, he's a gambler. Oh, I'm so mad that betting is illegal in my state. I mean, whatever. No, actually, no, they're sleazeballs. I agree. I wouldn't say mad at them, but the end, the responsibility is the person. You didn't have a relationship with Ashely Madison. You had a relationship with your ex.
Yeah.
The people that should be mad at Ashely Madison, frankly, are the cheaters. And they had a class action lawsuit against Ashely Madison on the whole credit card thing. And they talk about this, that they were charged extra to have their profile scrubbed, and the profile was never scrubbed. As consumers, those are the people that should be mad at Ashely Madison.
Yeah. I'm not.
Good for you. You weren't mad. You pulled it out.
Yeah, like you just made it easier. These people are going to do what they're going to do. You gave them um an easy way to do it. You were a conduit. You provided the service. But at the end of the day, he's the one that opted to sign in.
Yeah.
He's the one that created the account. These are people, Jake's wife, my ex, these, millions of people that make this choice every day to do this thing with no regard for their partner, no regard for their family, no regard for for what they could bring home to their spouse, nothing. It's completely selfish act on their part. um Ashely Madison just happened to be a platform.
Yeah, they're there monetizing it. Well,
Yeah.
tell me about your trajectory again. So you dumped this piece of shit, and it sounds like you've rebuilt your life in an amazing way, and you've got a new boyfriend, and you travel, and you're
Yes.
like, life is
Yes.
good.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about, being great that I wasn't full like a ball of anxiety and, just falling apart.
Yeah.
That happened. It happened the last trip.
Yeah.
So got my car full of boxes, photos in the trunk. My little Yorkie sitting next to me, got the music on, and we're going through the beautiful green hills of Oregon coast. And I get past the bridge and I just start crying uncontrollably.
Mm.
And Tracy, it was a mixture of emotions. And it was like, a lot of it was fear of the unknown, of like, this is it. I finally did it. There was that relief.
Hmm.
I finally fucking did it.
Yeah.
Finally fucking did it. And then it was like, oh shit, what next? Right? Like there was just a whole myriad of things. Because it's really easy when you don't know what to do to keep doing what you know. And that can be really dangerous if what you know is bad and
Yeah.
toxic.
Well, and also, eh, your ex was a bad guy. I mean, not just that he has a wandering dick, but I mean, it's the next level of criminality. I mean,
Yeah.
he's an embezzler, and I mean, he's got a lot of darkness there, and it's dangerous to, it's what the most dangerous time in domestic violence situations is when you leave, and
Yeah.
so I don't think you're wrong to be upset and
Yeah.
anxious and and
Yeah.
relieved too at the same time to be getting away. It's scary.
um, yeah, it was a lot of emotions that came out, but um I knew I had to do it, Tracy. I knew I had to do it because one way or the other, if I stayed, it was going to kill me.
Yeah.
Whether it was my own depression and, I'm not a not a depressed person, but how long can someone really stay in this situation with this type of person before it just
Yeah.
destroys your soul? And I was getting close. He was never a violent person, but I just, with all the things I discovered, it's like I don't know who he is. I don't know what he's capable of.
Yeah.
And it's like I had to get out. I knew that for the sake of my sanity, my safety, my health, my life, I had to get out. And so a lot of that was coming out in that drive. I get home, I start just getting my shit together, right? I'm hanging pictures, I'm doing all the things. And one of my friends said, what are you going to do if he shows up at your place? And at that time, I lived on the top floor of this beautiful building near downtown, highly secure. You had to have a key
Mhm.
fob to get in the front door, the garage, the lobby,
Mhm.
stairs, everything, elevator. So it was pretty secure. And I said, he won't do that. He's too much of a narcissist. He's just going to run and hide. Fucking 3 days later,
Oh no.
I get the phone call. Hey, I'm downstairs. Why are you here? He had literally driven it's like 13 hours
Mhm.
once he could, he got the email, he did all the things. I
Mhm.
don't know what he did on the back end,
It's
but
part of the game for them. I mean, they love the chase. So they love, testing your resolve. Yeah.
yeah.
They
And
usually boomerang. Yeah.
yeah, oh
Classic.
no. I was shocked. I was shocked but not shocked because by then I'd found your group. So I kind of had an idea of
They
what was
warned you.
yeah.
They come back.
Yes. And and he's like, I want to apologize to you in person
Yeah.
for what happened. And at this point, I didn't really spell out why I mean, I left because it just was time. And, I told you my email to him, the leaving part was like just maybe
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 sentences. It was not big at all. So he really didn't know why. He didn't know the details. To this day, he doesn't know that I know about the financial stuff, the financial crimes.
I wish you dropped a dime for law enforcement on that one. But
I told his business partner and they did their own internal auditing,
okay.
all of this stuff. So, anyway, so I'm like, well, fuck it. I go downstairs. I said, well, while you're here, maybe you can come up and help me hang some of my art.
What?
And so I let him upstairs. And I texted one of my girlfriends. I was like, so this is happening as right now.
Yeah, so you don't wind up dead in a ditch. Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, he was never a violent person. And he was at the sad sausage stage. He's just,
I wouldn't want him touching my stuff. Every time I look at the picture, I think, oh, that motherfucker hung that. Like, no, I'd have to go and undo it all. I don't know.
At this point, it was kind of a social experiment, and I do not recommend what I did.
Yeah, no, I would have told you, do not do that.
Yeah, do not, no. But knowing the situation and the person and me, I'm like, fuck it. And so, and he was laying on thick. And well, what are you sorry about? What are you apologizing for? And and I kind of flipped the script a little bit, and I said, well, the only chance that we would have a reconciliation is if you tell me everything. I want to know everything.
No,
And
God,
he started just spilling, and he initially denied that he was ever going to meet up with anybody on Ashely Madison. And of course, I was like, well, I opened up my computer and turned it around, like, what's this?
Yeah.
When he realized that he was talking to me. So, that went on for a couple hours, and they sent him on his way. I haven't really seen or
hours you can never get back. I mean, what is the point of this? Or I tell people, don't confront.
No, there was no point to it, Tracy. No. I mean, for me, it was, like I said, it was more of a social experiment. I may have had a little more respect for him if he had come up with something or done something original, but it was all by the script. It was all the things that you tell your readers and listeners what's going to happen. He did all those things, and he was not original. He was just he's a worthless scumbag. And so that was pretty much it. I'd hear from him here and there. He just recently hacked into my Netflix account.
What?
Yeah.
Fuck him. No, shut the report him.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh yeah. That was nuts.
Okay, does the new guy know about, he must know this story.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. He woke up that morning and I'm scrambling. I'm like changing passwords on all the things. And I was like, he hacked into my Netflix account. I was like, oh, yay. Oh, how powerful. He got access to my Netflix algorithm. What is he going to do with that? But he changed all the names. He couldn't delete me because I'm primary. So he changed it to his name, Nate, my partner. So we had pet names, nicknames on there. So I was Queen Steen and Nate was Big Nate. He's 6'4", big guy, right? He changed that to Small Nate. And added a couple. Yeah, I know. It was the
no. This is creepy. This is stalkery. It's been like years, and he's like hacking into your Netflix and just watch out.
I did the necessary things. I took care of it, and I also would. But it's like frustrated me, Tracy. Now I have to spend hours changing every password for every account I have just to make sure everything was secure.
Well, he's a creep.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you say to, I mean, I think we've kind of covered it, but what would you want to say you couldn't say at the Netflix documentary that you want chumps to know?
the thing I said right into the camera, is it's abuse. It is you are in an abusive relationship. If your partner is lying to you and cheating on you and gaslighting you, the attempts to change your perception of reality, making you small, isolating from the things that you love or the people that you love, manipulating you, just the whole laundry list of things, that is abuse. It is, maybe it's not leaving physical bruises on you, but it is abuse and it sticks. But once you're out, once you get out, everything gets so much better. And I got out. I told my trainer, I said, you got a year with me, make me fit. I got fucking fit. I started traveling. I didn't date. I took like almost a whole year off from dating. I started traveling. Everything just got better. Once you leave, everything gets better. Once you get on that journey of healing, I have to say, every relationship I have now is better. Once I got out and once I went on this journey, once I did go to therapy. I'm still in therapy. Saw him earlier today, right? And just walking through that journey, that path, going through that journey and that healing, you get so much clarity. Every relationship I'm in now is healthy. Every single one is healthy. You don't get to walk through the threshold of my house and bring your chaos and your drama and your bullshit. And the beautiful thing about this is you can spot it really fucking fast.
Yep.
Someone starts going down that road. They start trying.
You're like sad sausage. I see what you're doing there.
Not gonna happen. Sorry.
You can hang my art.
Yeah, right. And then leave.
That wraps another episode of Tell Me How You're Mighty. You want to leave us a mighty story or a fuckwit of the week submission? Check out our new website, tellmehowyourmighty.com. That's yours spelt YOURE. We've got all the episodes, show notes, links to our guests, and you can see the tea room where Sarah and I first met. If you enjoyed this episode, please review the podcast and follow us. Thanks. See you next week.